I'm excited to dive in because we had an awesome chat about mental health. I learned she had a few books, so we had to bring her here to Writing with Authors. Janet, welcome back.
Thank you, Vince. So good to see you again.
Oh, I'm excited to have you, everyone. Welcome to Writing with Authors, the show for authors, book lovers, and everyone in between. I mentioned she's got 4 books and she's going to hold them up shortly. But this show is brought to you by Coming Alive Podcast Production.com. And today, again, 4 books. Did you always knew you were going to be an author when you were a little girl?
No, not even close. No. Um, I think I was drawn to the piano as a little girl.
Okay.
And so I always was interested in music and composing music. Actually, when I was really small, I was playing a little Mozart piece, and I thought it's one thing to be able to play what somebody else has written, but the cool thing would be to compose it myself. I didn't know the word compose yet, but I remember thinking that. And long story short, I ended up going to Berklee College of Music in Boston, and where I majored in music composition. And while I was there, I was also interested in poetry, and there was this fabulous teacher named Pat Pattison who taught several courses on writing poetry. And I think that was a huge influence in, because I've had no formal training as a writer other than what I learned from him and in those classes, which was a lot. But other than that, it was journaling. I wasn't even that avid a reader. But what happened was by, I guess, around 2008, I had been reading a lot of books on Buddhist teachings, which had gotten me very interested to know more. Eventually, everything I read said, if you really wanted to do this, you need to find a teacher. I found that 5 miles from my house was the Tibetan Buddhist Center for Universal Peace, where I met Tibetan Buddhist monks who were just amazing teachers and amazing beings altogether. But while I was attending one of those classes, I got to talking with another student who I had not seen there before, but was visiting from New Jersey. I'm in Connecticut. And we were both talking about how these teachings are, even though they're 2,500 years old, are so relevant to today.
I love that.
And you don't have to be Buddhist. You don't have to get all Buddhist-y. It's not religious. It can be, I suppose, if you take it to that level. But we were talking about how wouldn't it be nice if we could present these teachings in a way that would be, accessible to your typical Westerner. It's not going to go seeking out a Buddhist temple or monk or something. And as we talked, it turns out his career was in publishing, but he had a little side gig. He had started his own little side publishing company.
Cool.
That was dedicated specifically to books on Buddhism. And he asked me to send a sample of something I had written, which I did. It wasn't a book, wasn't fiction. And then some time went by, and he sent me this proposal for this idea he had, which was to take a Buddhist teaching taught by 8th century Buddhist monk and scholar Master Shantideva, known as the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life in English. That's what it's known. And what that presents is something called the 6 perfections, which are the perfection of generosity, moral and ethical discipline, which sounds so severe, but it's really not. It's really the root of kindness. And patience, the perfection of patience, joyous effort, concentration, and then wisdom. So he asked me to try out writing like what I would do as the first 10 pages of the first book.
Okay.
And not even having read much fiction, all I had heard, I don't know where you hear these things, but you do, it's like write what you know. So I thought he had told me there needs to be a teacher character and a student character. So I thought, well, I teach piano. I can make the first teacher character be a piano teacher somehow. And the student wasn't actually one of her students. He was the half older brother of a little girl she was teaching. And I wrote the first 10 pages. He liked it. and then the contracts were drawn up, and so that's how I became an author. It's really a kind of sideways, unexpected way.
But that's life sometimes. It's not always a straight line. It's not always A to B. You have to work up. But I am going to ask, Janet, hold that book up, that first book. Let's see it.
The first book is How Generosity Works.
I love it. I love it. Walk us through how you came up with the cover.
Well, previously I had recorded 2 CDs of my own. I call it meditatively inspired music. So there's a CD that has the same cover to it called Piano Mandalas, Compassion. And that's because in my wish, as I was improvising my music, it was a wish for everyone to have peace. It was just there to put it simply. And
I know you're so passionate about your work. Is book 2 a sequel from book 1, or is it a standalone?
So, well, they're all one of the requirements he asked of me, which I had no idea how tricky it was going to be, but was to write each book in such a way that they could be read in any order, so that they essentially are standalone, which, since the series follows the same main character throughout, I weave the backstory into each successive story.
Right.
Therefore, each book gets a little bit longer.
Well, let's see the other books. We can't just talk about them, right? We got to show everybody them. And everyone, they're available on Amazon now. They're available wherever books are sold. So go on there. If you like what she's talking about, they're filled with value. As she said, she spent time there, adapted, and now making it easy to learn for us Americans, right? So let's see that second book.
Okay. And hopefully, yes, I think it is fairly easy to learn. This one is How the Root of Kindness Works, and that's based on the second perfection. There are several different translations into English of these different perfections, but this one, I'm familiar with it as Moral and Ethical Discipline, which, as I said, I didn't like that. That wasn't a friendly title.
Now, do the colors have certain significance?
The young woman who designed these, her name is Claire Cerullo. She's the daughter of the publisher, does the design work. And so she had this brilliant idea, knowing there were going to be 6 perfections, that each one would relate to a different chakra. So this was the root chakra. I don't know chakras well, so I'm not even going to pretend to know which this one is, but it's the next one up.
Yeah.
And then the third book is, and the third perfection is How Patience Works. And it's yellow, I think. Yeah, again, I'm not going to pretend to know what they correspond to. And then the fourth one, the last one, the one I just finished, is How Joyous Effort Works.
Very cool. I mean, 4 books, that's no easy accomplishment, but I, for one, love the yellow, because yellow is my company's focal color. You see here, the Writing with Authors, a little yellow. The microphone for Left 4 Dead, a little yellow. My grandmother's favorite color was yellow, so I have her in all my podcast covers, all my book covers. There's a shade of yellow somewhere in them, and that's like my brand, so I love that. Is there, dare I say, book 5?
Well, there could be. There was some issues in the publishing situation around 2000. I think I actually finished the last book in 2018, minus like the last kind of some edits and changes. And things seem to be not moving along really as I would have expected them to with my publisher. And then COVID happened, and as happened to so many people and businesses, things there were some challenges that he had not expected that made it finally to the point where he wasn't able to complete the project. But he was very generous in the reversion of rights agreement, that I could have all the inventory, have all the books, and see if I could find another publisher,
right?
Which I dedicated 2023 to doing.
Good.
Trying to get a publisher for a 4th book in a series wasn't going well, especially since the first 3 hadn't been like very strongly promoted. So it wasn't like they had record sales or anything to entice a publisher. And then after that, the caveat in our agreement was that if I couldn't find a publisher, I could publish through him using his imprint, his daughter helping with her end, his warehouse and sales channels and everything, but all at my own expense. So I took it on because one of the teachings in Joyous Effort is that once you begin something, complete it. And as you can imagine, after all this, I felt so strongly about what these books present and offer and the way they're presented, and it's unique. There aren't, as far as I know, a lot of Buddhist teachings presented in this way that are actual. For instance, I use verses from Master Shantideva's teachings within the body of the stories, so that they work like kind of little thoughts between what you could consider to be chapters. It sort of sheds something to think about as you read the next section.
Amazing.
And so it's I've had the good fortune to know these Tibetan monks one who's a geshe, which is the equivalent to like a PhD. His knowledge is immense. A Rinpoche, who doesn't speak English, but through a translator, I was able to speak with him.
Amazing.
Just get clarification that I was presenting things accurately.
Yep.
And and I had another really good teacher who is American, named Lauren Ladner, who reviewed the entire manuscript, sort of like fact-checking.
A lot of value in there. I'm telling you, you surround yourself with all these amazing people over your life, and now look where you are, author of 4 awesome books. And I have to ask before I let you go, what's one piece of advice you can give for any new author out there to help them on their journey?
Well, be committed. Have hopefully you have a friend or a few friends that you can just sort of spend time with to kind of help revive you when you're feeling like you've hit the wall.
That's a great support systems. Can't argue that.
Yeah, and just even though there's no money coming in while you're in the process of writing, or maybe ever, you do need to commit. It's something of value to be spending your time doing, and make that commitment to show up for, the project for yourself. To me, it's like it has a life of its own, each book.
And you certainly inspired me. And now 4 books again, everyone. Let's hold them up one more time so everybody knows exactly what they're looking like online.
I wish I could hold them all up at once, like a deck of cards, but I would drop them. But here's the first one: How Generosity Works. How the Root of Kindness Works, How Patience Works, and How Joyous Effort Works. And it follows Troy, a young man in his early 20s who's dealt with a lot of difficulties in his life. And in each book, he meets a new teacher. And with each teacher, he learns something more. And you get to be with him as he's learning, questioning, challenging, meditating, and putting it into practice and seeing the results. So you get to do that with him.
I absolutely love that. And I hope I don't know if you hear that noise or not. We got some construction going on outside. And I think that, Jean,
Janet.
Yeah. I have your name right here. Brain fart at the end of the day, everyone. Listen,
okay.
I am very, very excited that you are still motivated to make a difference in your field. I think that it is admirable that you're making this in understandable terms for everyone, right? Because other languages, of course, there's a barrier there, but you've made it and put it into a resource that was fact-checked by some of the brightest minds in the field. So congratulations on growing to that, and congratulations on all you do. And thank you for your time here on Writing with Authors.
Thank you so much, Vince. It's so good to see you again. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.